Okay, this is one I've had kicking around for a while. I really wanted to pick it up. It's Dampfross. I remember playing, I don't know which company it was. Came in a black box, was sold as the US version of the game. Very, very pretty. Had already, they had pretty much settled on some rules changes that maybe are from more advanced games, etc. But as explained in the rules that I have here. Unfortunately, my copy's a little different. For one thing, the game that I remember had Russia and Ireland on it, but in Germany, and I think one of the U.S., the Eastern U.S. Well, this one has in different maps. This has the Germany map still, but it also has a Western U.S. map, both sides with all the mountains there. An Eastern U.S. map, like I said, but I think I had a slightly different one. It certainly looked different. It had green in it, and then a France map. Just a different set of pieces. We'll see how that works out. But I'm going to try the Eastern U.S. map. The game suggests using the Germany one, but that one actually looks more for your first game. But that one looks more complicated to me. Also had these markers which I resurrected. This is obviously an old version of the game, and the markers are from the original. However, and I was warned about them. Hey, they're not going to work. They're no good. You'll have to replace them. Well, it turns out with these markers, you can dip them in water and let them suck up some of the water, and they work then, sort of. And actually fairly well. It just may be a little too wet. The only weird thing, the brown one writes green. Just like the green one writes green. It may be a dark green that is expected to be brown normally, but when I'm drawing on it, it looks absolutely brown. So I don't know, I'm thinking, do I want to play a 5-player game, or do I want to play a 6-player game with some other markers or some other things? I'll come to that decision in a moment. I'll probably go with the 6-player game, just because it's easier, although, I'll tell you, that brown and that black look awfully similar to me as well, and that's going to be tough to deal with. Okay, so this game, I played it after playing some of the other Crayon Rails games, the old Mayfair Crayon Rails games. This is actually an older design, I think, and it intrigues me in a way that those didn't, maybe just because I didn't get to overplay it as much. It's got a very different sort of feel. So the regular Crayon Rails run on this pick up and deliver type mode. This one runs on races between cities. Now, there's different ways of playing it, and my rules are based on the original rules, and they lack some of the refinements, I think, that came into the later game, and I'm going to go more with those refinements. The game's split into basically 2 segments. In the first segment, players buy track, and they start off with $20 listed here, which, and you're supposed to write it on the board, but I think it's going to be easier on paper, which they can use to purchase portions of track. Now, they'll start off in one city. And how is that determined? I don't believe it's random. I believe players choose their own city. Yeah, you choose your own city, and then you can build railway lines from your money based on the roll of a die. You have X amount of points to spend at any given time out of your thing in your turn for it. Now those points in general are going to be, let me show you how this brown one works. So if I went from Atlanta, well, it would cost me 1 to go there. I'd be moving through a blank hex from blank to blank. It matters both where you're coming from and where you're going to. So that would cost me 1 point. Crossing a river is going to cost 3 points. not 3 additional, just 3 to cross the river in general. Building into a mountain space would cost 3 points. So if I went 1, 2, you're going center to center, 3, 4, 5, okay? Building out of a mountain hex also costs 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That would cost me. Already, there's no way I could do this in one action, right? If I move from mountain to mountain, it costs 5. Okay, like that. Now, try not to put the pen in my mouth as I try to close it without a hand. Alright. If you cross a river and enter a mountain, and I don't know if that's possible here, sure it is. From here, if I drop down here, that would also cost 5 points, like if I move from mountain to mountain. That's all fine and good. But now I have to deal with other people's track, perhaps. And when dealing with other people's track, well, the problem here is, and let's say I'm shooting along here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to Atlanta. Okay, that all works fine, and that red is just really, really dark because it's really wet, and if I let it dry, it'll probably come out better, because it was not that bad before. Okay, so for $5, I've connected there, and it didn't matter that the other person's track was there because there's a city there. But if I wanted instead to connect here, 1, 2, I'd have to pay not only the track that I built there, but a premium for connecting to another person's track of $1 to that player. Okay? And I can then just cross through that by pumping out this way, and that wouldn't cost me any additional. But if instead I wanted to run parallel into, say, this space, I would pay the $1 for that space plus $2 for each half hex that I'm running exactly parallel to them. So that's a bad idea, to be the second person drawing the exact same track. You're going to pay a fortune, and you pay that money to the player. That's painful. You don't want to pay money to another player, because money is actually what this game is all about. It's these units here. Okay. Well, as we're building and rolling the dice and taking turns building track here and there, spending points, well, very quickly with 20, you think you're going to run out of money. Except there's a little bonus. When you reach trying to see where the bonus is here. It's in here, man. It's in here. Trust me. Okay, first of all, you've got to build from your own track. So once you get started, you can split your purchases to different segments of your track, but it all has to connect back. You can't just start building, you know, from here to here like sometimes you can in the Mayfair game. But I'm looking for the other bonus, which is get money for hooking things up. And there we go. No, there we don't go. Alright, I'm going to have to take a pause and look to see where in this little sheet of paper the rule is. So this is what I remembered from the rules reading, and I couldn't find it in the rules, but over on this play aid chart it tells you building phase, 6 units for a player who's the first to connect a city to a railway. So if you hook your city into a railway, you get $6 for it. Does that affect your first city? I don't think so. I think that one's kind of free in the sense that nobody gets bonused out of the first city. I'm not sure. Since I can't find the actual rule here anymore, because I can't read clearly enough while I'm trying to look at this, I'm not really able to tell you, but I may come in. Oh, here we go. To connect the player to connect a numbered city to a railway line for the first time gets a bonus of 6 units credited to his account. I I don't think you get that for just saying, hey, I started my rail here. You've got to actually hook a new city into it. Anyway, you get that 6 extra bucks for being the first person there. Nobody else gets an extra bonus for connecting up there, but they still may want to connect some cities, and they may want to run through and get some bonuses elsewhere. You do want to collect money up fast, though, and early, so you want to position yourself where you can get money. Why? Well, because once somebody is connected, once all the cities have become connected, the game enters a new stage. Alternatively, now in this game, they say to counterattack a deliberate delay, each player may declare the building phase closed if there's only one unconnected city left and 2 or more rounds have been played, presumably since that city was connected. Okay, I don't remember it being that simple. I remember it being more along the lines of if a couple of rounds pass without anybody doing anything, then without anybody connecting a city, then somebody can declare it over. The reason for that is, well, I could kind of close off a whole area and not advance in it, and well, if we're not at one city, I'm kind of delaying things and preventing the game from going forward. I don't know what that could do. I really don't. I'll play with the rules as written in this, but I remember them being written a little differently and probably for good reason. All right, so once you're in that stage where you're no longer building, you're no longer paying these, you keep your points. They're going to be your money and your points for the end of the game, but you roll 2 dice. Read them as an 11 to 66 roll. 32, okay. That'll be from here to 61, which is here. So there will be a race from 32 to 61. The way that's going to work, this is kind of tricky actually. If they're within 6 hexes of each other, the race isn't possible. It's canceled. And you roll up a new set. But if they're close enough to run a race, players who want to run in it start here in the starting location for it. And I really think I have to play 5 players or get a different colored pawn, because like the pens, that's going to be impossible for me. In order to run the race, you have to define your path. Now, if your path goes over all your own track, you don't have to pay anything. So if you actually have track that runs from Charlotte up to Cleveland, you can run your race for free. If, however, you want to run on someone else's track, well, you have to pay them $1 per hex that you're going to travel on their track. And you can't pay more than $10 to someone else. With the one proviso that if they are also paying you, and now here again, it's not as clear as it used to be. I think it used to say, I think the version that I'm used to said it has to net 10. But the way these rules are written, well, if I'm running over one segment of your track for $1, then you can run over mine for $20, $30. There's no reason you'd want to do this. This is an anti-kingmaker rule, I think, more than anything else, but that's okay. I'll play with it as written again. I don't think it's going to have much effect because you don't pick somebody else's race. And then when you're racing, what do? You roll 1 die? Yeah. On your turn to race, you roll 1 die and you can move that many spaces. And it's really movement points because in general each hex costs 1 point, but if you're moving from a plains into a mountain, you have to pay an additional point to, climb that grade. But other than that, you're really looking at who's got the shortest route that they don't have to pay much for. And how much how well can they do? You know what I think? I think the original was you pay $10. The way we played it, which may be wrong, it may have been worded the same as this, but you pay $10. You can't pay more than that, but you can pay $10 for, say, a 20 hex run. I don't think that's how this is worded, though. When I look at it, I feel like it says you cannot pay more than $10, which is to say, if it's more than 10 hexes, you just can't run on it. Now, two players can cut a deal to make a run together by saying, our track works the same, we'll use one choo-choo, and we'll run together on our combined track, and maybe have to pay someone else, all fees being split evenly, with the richer player having to pay any overage. And then if we win, we'll split the benefits as well equally. Okay, well, whoever gets there first gets 20 units. Whoever makes the race fastest gets 20 units. Whoever gets there second, if there are at least two players, gets 10 units. 10 money. Great. All right, well, the way these are written, you play to a fixed amount of money. They suggest, what? I don't know, 250 bucks or some such? I don't know what it is. 250 bucks for 2-3 players, 200 bucks for 5 or 6 players. However, the way I remember had this little chart, and I'm going to use this as well, where you can go between, one tens digit and one ones digit, and each city is marked off once. So, or each city's number is marked off once. So if I go to Charlotte with 32, I'd mark the 32 space down here. And likewise, what was the other one? I think Cleveland at 61, I'd mark that space off. Those cities would never be involved in another race. So you don't really know for sure what your race is going to be like for the cities that you like. You connect up certain cities that you think are cool for you, but they may not work out for the race that you want. And then after all of the cities have had races, legitimate ones, and if there are any cities at the end that don't have possible legitimate races, they just get pitched, I guess. Whoever has the most points wins. I like that version better. That's what I'm used to, and it's suggested as an advanced option. The other advanced option in this one, and I remember this as well, I'm not going to play with. It involves special transports made after every third regular transport, and these are going to be ones that go at random to certain areas. So for example, Canada, it would go to one of the cities near Canada. And it gives you more opportunity and flexibility as to your run. These work okay, but the game I remember playing had kind of a chart for these as well, and they would get marked off. So you would only go to Canada once or twice or whatever. You would only go to each one of these special sections every now and then. I'd rather play this one straight up as it is, with just the spaces, and not worry about that. If I can look at it and play with it a little bit more, I may think about playing with some of those others. One thing to note, I'm going to play one scenario of this. I'm not sure that I'm going to play all 4 of them on camera. I don't know if much is gained by that. I don't feel like the same way that I do, say, with SPQR, that there's some interesting new story that really needs to be told with every single map of these. And I don't think the game is significantly different between them. You might see me play different XXs on camera, although I don't think I'm going to play 18AL and 18GA or whatever. I think they're too similar. But some of the other ones I may feel like I have to play different versions of just because of that. Alright, up this goes. Playing a lot of light stuff because I'm still clipping God Kings, and I don't really want to get this in play before that.